Before I got into Bitcoin, I was selling cars as an auto broker, just a hustler like everybody else, giving the best service I can give in a harmonious way to get my money to survive, right? People are worried about losing 20, 30% of their investment. Now, I lost 80% of my investment the first year, 6 months, whatever it was, when I got into it, right? And then I just kind of looked at it and never looked back once it started going back up above 20 grand. And then I was just like, okay, well, I know it's going to 100. I know it's going to 1,000,000. I know it's going to 10 million. What if Satoshi's from the future sent back code and did his little thing? So then down the road in 2030, 2040, he can get his million Bitcoin and help rule the world and whatever. Maybe the, extraterrestrials or different dimensional. All I can think of is that water flows least resistance, right? Bitcoin's least resistance. When you go to the banks, you can't get your money out on weekends or at nights. You can't transfer a lot of money on certain times, especially cash. You can't even get a certain amount out. You can't transfer your money to other countries easily. But in Bitcoin, it gets rid of all those barriers. Think about it, the stock market, right? Because a lot of my friends, I tell them, Bitcoin, they're like, well, the stock market does pretty good too, right? And I'm thinking, yes, but the stock market is fueling the fiat monster, right? You're fueling destruction of Mother Nature. It's separating Mother Nature. That's why I think the people that are smart enough to understand Bitcoin are the ones that are going to reap the benefits, the rewards of Bitcoin, like me, like you, when it went up and then went back down. And we already studied it enough to know, oh, here's our opportunity. Let's double down.
Welcome to the Bitcoin broadcast. Today we have on Jeff Long. 2013 OG Bitcoiner right here.
Yes,
it's a
sir.
pleasure to have you on, man. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing excellent. Thank you for having me on. And it was awesome, interacting with you on X for, the last 6 months and, seeing that I got a Bitcoin brother in Florida. So it's good to finally talk to you and, gain a new Bitcoin friend online.
Oh, yeah, no, I love talking to people, at least, face to face, because when you're talking on X, you can't like hear tone of voice, and
Yeah.
it's the conversations kind of get tough, and then it's just, 1-2 line punches here and there. And then,
Yeah, it's
so
a meme or a sentence, and it's hard to get across your story or how you really are on something like that. So I totally understand.
yeah, absolutely. Do you want to start out with just kind of giving me your background a little bit, how you got into Bitcoin? I know you
Yeah.
said 2013, which is
Mhm.
pretty incredible. I don't think I've interviewed anyone, maybe I have, that got in at, before like 2015, I think is the
Wow.
earliest, maybe. I
The
mean, because it's
price is
kind of
similar,
tough.
though. The price is similar between those years, but
Yeah.
I was blessed because I before I got into Bitcoin, I was selling cars as an auto broker, just a hustler like everybody else, giving the best service I can give in a harmonious way to get my money to survive, right? And I was just in that rat race, going, going, going. And then since I own my own business, I was like, there has to be an easier way to get more money. So I started looking into investing like stocks. And then I saw Max Keiser. I was watching him because I didn't like watching my news from Fox News or CNN or anything like that. So I would watch it, ironically, from RT News, Russian TV news, but they were based in San Francisco. So they had, how like Fox has their, or CNN has their certain, news stations in other countries. Well, they had theirs based in Russian TV based in San Francisco, and Max Keiser and Stacey Herbert had a show on there. I think it was the Kaiser Report. And that was like one of my favorite shows to watch for the news. I liked Max Keiser, his wife, and just listening to him. And then they started talking about this thing called Bitcoin. And then so I was like, oh, this thing's pretty interesting. So I got into it just for the fact of it was disguised as an investment, just like stocks and everything else. So I started buying some of that along with stocks, right? And the ironic thing is my stocks went down 99.9% almost, right? Over the 10 years that I was looking at the stocks. And then over Bitcoin, it went up like 99.99%. So I am such a firm believer because of my past history that I will never touch stocks again. I'm only in Bitcoin, right? And so I give all my thanks and praises to Max Keiser and Stacey Herbert for listening to them. And when I first got in, it was rocky. I mean, imagine investing and then it goes up to $1,000 and you start buying, a good amount of Bitcoin, and then it goes down to $200, right? So people are worried about losing 20, 30% of their investment. Now I lost 80% of my investment the first year, 6 months, whatever it was when I got into it, right? But because of I was watching Max Keiser like once or twice a week, whenever his show was, I was just getting orange pill. And he was like, it's a buying opportunity. It's going back up. It's going back up. And then in my mind, I was like, well, if it can drop 80% and it's such a good asset, like Max Kaiser's saying, it's going to go back up to $1,000. So I encourage everybody, if you know Bitcoin and you believe in it, listening to people like me, Max Keiser, you double down when it goes lower. That's where the real gains are made. Because if I didn't do that and I waited for it to go back up and go, oh, it is a good asset, and started buying it, I would have missed out on a lot of my wealth, right? And so I doubled down, and thank God I did, because there was a couple histories throughout Bitcoin where I doubled down and it paid off big time. That was one of them. And then of course it goes up to 1,000, then it goes up to 3,000, up to 5,000. I'm thinking this is the greatest thing ever. And then it jumped up to 17,000. Hit peaked at 19 real quick. And so they say never sell your Bitcoin, but I got into Bitcoin, to spend it and to use it. And so in 2017, 18, right when that happened, I went and bought my dream car, a black convertible Bentley, right? So I'm thinking, enjoy California. I get my dream car, and then Bitcoin over the next year goes down to $3,000. And so now I'm driving this, Bentley. Bitcoin's back down to $3,000, and I don't own a house yet or anything else. I'm still, working, hustling. I'm like, what do I do? So I sold the Bentley, bought more Bitcoin at 3 grand. It was another double down moment. And then I just kind of looked at it and never looked back once it started going back up above 20 grand. And then I was just like, okay, well, I know it's going to 100. I know it's going to 1 million. I know it's going to 10 million and beyond, because of all the knowledge I got by studying it, using it, watching YouTubers all the time. And I thought about the other day, and I probably watch 1 to 2 hours of Bitcoin on YouTube every day. It's like a hobby. I love it because not only it's like my job, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And so I put in so many hours, thousands and thousands of hours, right? And so I have a firm belief, like a core belief, after 13 years or 12, 13 years of being in Bitcoin, it's like nothing can change, right? My belief. And it's really exciting because Bitcoin in the next year or so is going to be 18 years old. And I kept telling people, right, when I was in it, they're like, "Oh, Bitcoin, it's volatile. It's fake internet money." And I'm like, "Look, it's only been around like 10 years or 11 years or 12 years or 30, as it's going down the years, I'm increasing the years. I'm like, wait till it hits at least an adult. It's not even an adult yet, right? And so I'm kind of excited to see what Bitcoin's going to do when it hits 18. And then in 4 years, 21, I think we're going to have an adult, amazing, mature asset that's just going to be going parabolic. Because right now, you and I know it's way oversold. It's great for people to be buying it under 100,000. If I didn't have what I had now, I'd be working my butt off to be buying as much Bitcoin as possible. But that's how I kind of started. That's why it's, my blood is literally orange now, right? It's in my DNA. And so but I owe it all to Max Keiser and Stacy Herbert, and that's my journey.
That's awesome. I've never heard someone be like this person specifically. It's usually like a book or like a combination of a couple
Yeah.
things. But Max Kaiser, no, that's awesome. Was there anything he said specifically where you were just like it kind of clicked? Was it any of like the kind of cliche things we hear today?
It
Because
was more of the price that made it click, because I'm like, what is this thing that's making me success, richer than anything else, right? That along with what he was saying, then I'm like, because when you first listen to Max Keiser, like, is this guy a little crazy, right? Especially when Bitcoin's young and no one's talking about it. He sounds a lot more crazy back then. But then when you see the price doing what it does, and you kind of get a general feel like your fingers on the pulse for so many years, after about 5 years and listening to Max Keiser, you kind of make up your own mind. So it was, I would say, the price and him echoing every day, daily, weekly, about what it has the potential to do. And then for someone like myself that, has always been going like against I would say the grain, like against normal society, because normal society kind of sets you up for failure. So I kind of saw that, and I was looking at everything through my own eyes and not through the media's eyes. And what Max Keiser was saying made just perfect sense of how you could be self-sovereign, how the government and things can't take it. And then I thought, well, and I just did a lot of, I'm not a math genius, but I'm really good at math when it's basic math, right? And so I started throwing around the 21 million and the 8 billion people. And I was like, holy freaking moly, if I just have this amount of Bitcoin, if Bitcoin even does what a half of what I think it's going to do, then I'm going to be pretty well off in Bitcoin terms, not gold, not silver, not property, not stocks, in Bitcoin. And so either I'm a genius or I'm crazy, but 95 plus a percent of all my wealth is in Bitcoin, in crypto. And so that's how much faith I have in it, and now that it's as low as it is, in the next year or two, we're going to either see it go parabolic or it's going to still go sideways and then go parabolic in 2 years. I just, I don't see it failing, and the more they try to beat it down, the more people like me and you are going to be like, what the heck are we doing, right? I mean, this is one of the hills that I would die on, right? Not a Republican or Democrat or even an American. This right here is something that can help out my kids, your kids, society, everybody, instead of printing money, paying people to do unmoral, unethical things. Breaking universal law for money eventually, deteriorates your soul, deteriorates society, and people don't see it when you have a fiat-based mindset. But when you opt out of that whole sandbox, and let's say the big U.S. government's the bully in that sandbox, and you just say, look, no matter how much money I have, how much power I have. I mean, look at Andrew Tate. They just take you and throw you in jail, right? Um, and so look at the president of Venezuela, right? Like no matter what, they can get you, right? But Bitcoin's a way you can hide and store your wealth where they just can't take it, right? And so you just being a normal person like everybody and seeing how important it is to the world, to society, is something that just makes me love it and support it even more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't imagine back in 2013 going around trying to talk about it, and then
No, I
like,
didn't really start to support it till like 2018, because then it went
okay,
so far up. I was like, oh, I looked back on my Facebook because I didn't really get active in X till like maybe start of 2025. I was always on Facebook, and Facebook's not too crypto Bitcoin friendly at all. But
no,
I went back and I was at 2015 telling people to buy Bitcoin on my Facebook. So 2015 was when I started to see it go a little bit up and really start to be like, okay, this could help out other people. It's helped me out. It's kind of something that I want to talk about. So it wasn't 2013 or 14, it was 2015 when I started actually really talking about it. The 2 years it was just an investment of my many that I was looking at and digesting and soaking in,
well,
the
even
Bitcoin fun.
Well, I mean, even in 2017, when I first started buying, and then I really started talking about it in 2020. So it took me
Oh,
a
nice.
couple years to talk about it too.
Yeah.
So when you were, buying your Bentley or did you say Corvette? It doesn't matter.
No, I
But
have a Corvette now. I bought the Bentley in 2017. That was my
okay,
dream car. That was one of the reasons why I got into Bitcoin, because I'm like, I want this, dream car. And I looked at the money I was making yearly and my expenses. I'm like, it's going to take me like 10 years to get this thing. And then when I looked at the Bitcoin going from 1,000 to 200, I go, well, if I get a certain amount of these Bitcoin and it goes up to that 1,000, I get my Bentley 80% cheaper. That was like my initial mindset. And so because of my ambition and my dreams, that's why I got into Bitcoin. If I didn't have that ambition and the dream to even get the Bentley in the first place, I probably wouldn't even gotten into Bitcoin, because I would have felt more secure and safe just doing the everyday thing.
okay, yeah. Well, when you were selling or to buy that Bentley, I was starting to buy. That
Ah,
was
yeah.
me. So I was like the 20, uh at 13,000 or something is when I was starting to buy. So I was around then, but I still sounded like a crazy person, even in 2018, 2019, 2020, talking about Bitcoin, because there was still so much FUD about
Hmm.
all the it's a Ponzi scheme, and it was like I mean, it's still around today, but now at least everyone knows what Bitcoin is, or that they've at least heard of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Back then, man, I can't even imagine being like shouting from rooftops about it, and then you're
Yeah.
like, "What? $1,000? It went down to 200. Like it's worthless." And then, but you always feel late. You always feel
Hmm.
late, and I felt like I was so late to Bitcoin when I was buying. and then it dropped down like 3 grand, 3,500 in 2020, and that's when I saw my opportunity, and I was like, I'm gonna try and buy as much of this as I possibly can, because I was like, this is going back up, this is going way past 20K. Luckily, I had did enough research and did my own reading books, listening to podcasts and things like that. So yeah, I can't imagine back then. Were you trading Bitcoin, or were you just buying and holding mainly and then you sold a little?
Buying and holding for the long term, but selling when I wanted to, when it was kind of higher, just for lifestyle chips. And if I didn't have what I had, I obviously wouldn't have been selling. But but yeah, I mean, I looked at it like, if I never sold, what if it went way back down or something happened? Or what if, who knows, right? And so I looked at it like, uh, try to take advantage of opportunities when you can, right? And so I still sell Bitcoin when it goes way up, just a little for lifestyle chips. And then when it goes down 30, 40%, I'm like trying not to sell as much as, any if at all. And I've made just as much on other cryptos I had as on Bitcoin. So, but I don't talk about any other cryptos. I've never shouted from the rooftop. I've never told anybody to buy any other cryptos, because Bitcoin, what made me love it so much is that it's going to help separate state and money. It's the only thing us humans have, that I see right now, our best case scenario to help separate state and money. And if not, the more power state and our fiat is going to get, the less power we have, right? And so I just looked at it like that, and I was like, this is an opportunity to be self-sovereign. It looked like the arc, and this is a way to get out. And so that's why I promote it. I wear it, I talk about it, I do whatever I can, because when Max Keiser was doing it, I felt that he was doing it from a passion, from love for himself and for society, and for his moral obligation. And look how wealthy and wonderful he's doing. If he got into Bitcoin and just shut up, it wouldn't help me. It probably would have not helped a lot of people, right? And it wouldn't have helped the network. It probably wouldn't have helped society as a whole. And so, before I forget, I want to go over one thing.
Okay.
And I like talking about new and crazy theories with regards to Bitcoin, especially with other Bitcoiners, because I want to try to bring something new that you've probably never heard about and probably no one else has heard about. But it's a theory, right? And it's like a conspiracy theory that I came up with just recently. So,
Okay.
so do you know what happened in January 2009?
January of 2009.
The first Genesis block, right? The
Oh,
Bitcoin went live. Okay.
I was thinking of like world events. I was like trying
Yeah,
to think of
well, that's a pretty good
here.
one for us Bitcoiners, right? And so
Yeah.
for in Bitcoin standards, that's huge, right? And so it's something like a new consciousness, a new, magnetic consciousness is coming through the earth, right? Did you also know, and I just found this out, that scientists study the inner Earth's core, which is made of nickel and iron, which is also rotating and spinning. That same month, could have been the same day, it slowed down and started to reverse rotation with regards to the Earth's surface. And that rarely ever happened. Scientists were baffled, right? And ever since the first Genesis block, the inner core started changing its rotation. How important is that? The inner core's rotation dictates the length of day, our electromagnetism around, our, the electromagnetic fields that prevent the sun. All this is it connected directly, and and some of it with regards to this inner earth, this core spinning. And the same month, could have been the same day, that the Genesis block is released out to humanity, the earth's inner core starts to change and rotate different. Very weird, right? And so it could be nothing, but it could be something that's connected directly with our consciousness and with earth. Who knows? But I bet you didn't know that one.
I did not know that one. No,
Hmm.
that's that's
So
fascinating.
I'm not like, huge into the planet and, the magnetism in the inner earth. So maybe other people can look into it. But when I did a little bit of research on that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Maybe it has nothing to do with it, or maybe it has something to do with it. I'll just mention it on your show and let other people pick it up and see, where I left off, and see if it has anything. But it's
I'm
cool.
sure someone will. I mean, someone out there is probably gonna do some research about the stars and the I don't know, the Earth's core and the moon and something else and connect some dots for us.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to, what if Satoshi's from the future sent back code and did his little thing, so then down the road in 2030, 2040, he can get his million Bitcoin and help rule the world and whatever. Maybe the, extraterrestrials or different dimensional beings, of what they've could have done it. And when they want to come to Earth and be harmonious with us, they can say, well, look, I'm going to be harmonious with you guys because I have all the wealth because I own this Bitcoin math. And so who knows? I have no clue. And I don't think anybody does, because then they would find out who Satoshi is,
Yeah,
which is
I don't.
another amazing thing about Bitcoin. Like,
Yeah,
the rabbit hole, when you go down Bitcoin, it keeps going, right? And then you start to like look at things like me, like the inner earth spinning what does that have to do with Bitcoin? Who knows? Maybe nothing. But my consciousness has changed for the better. My consciousness has raised ever since I got into Bitcoin. What does that have to do, right? So I think Bitcoin's a lot more than just math and code, because look what it's done to someone like me over 13 years, right? I mean, I've always kind of been a good talker and a salesman, and had dreams and ambitions, but nothing helped me manifest my dreams and ambitions like Bitcoin. Because I
yeah.
literally, when I was younger, growing up, had visuals, like nice house, black Corvette convertible, this beautiful girl, and kids, all these things I was manifesting when I was in my 20s. When I got into Bitcoin, I was like 27, 28, that's when you're hopefully in your life starting to, reap the benefits of the rewards you start to get, right? I still wasn't getting any benefits, no rewards. And I was out there every day selling, helping people get the best deal on their cars. And I still was just could barely get by. And I was doing great. Right. I paid zero taxes on my own business, and I write off and do stuff. So I could only imagine other people that were selling cars for a dealership, but then had to pay these taxes. Right. So I always had one up ever since I got into my own business, and the mindset of trying to figure out other avenues to get wealth. But Bitcoin is one that helped me morally and ethically and consciously rise up faster than anything else. Because if it not, I would be like, what else can I do to get more money? That rat race.
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because before the show we were talking and you were like, you were retired,
Mhm.
and so you could spend time with your new kid, and now you have two kids, and I think that's like the dream, right? You want to be
Mhm.
able to get to that point in your life where you can decide for yourself what you do with your time. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the goal, right? Is the
Mhm.
financial freedom, and I think that's fantastic that you've been able to do that. And then you were kind of mentioning the struggle of giving up the hustle and putting all your faith into Bitcoin. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so w- what I will say is, before I got into Bitcoin, I felt like I was part of the human race, right? A race to get more money, a race. I honestly, if it wasn't for Bitcoin, I probably wouldn't even have kids, because it's so expensive and hard to have these things, right? And so I was part of the human race, right? Just race to get more money, a race to get ahead, right? It was always hard. I feel like getting into Bitcoin, it helped me realize that I want to be part of humankind, kinder to myself, kinder to my family, kinder to my community. So I feel like that is what helped me cancel, or put on pause, whatever. As of right now, I'm retired. My business, over 10 years of the best reviews online in San Jose, in California, helping all ethnicities get the best deal on their cars, getting paid for it. I loved it. And then to look and say, okay, well, I'm gonna cancel that part of my income and focus on your family. Nobody else is doing that at 40 years old, And so, because I'm 41 now, and it was last year I did it, and it was also something I loved, right? But I felt like, if my legacy, right? Do I want my legacy to be, he was a great car salesman? He was a great business owner, or a great family guy and promoted Bitcoin to help elevate the world's consciousness, right? Because people get trapped in the common laws, the man-made laws, the borders, all these things, and they forget that there's, universal laws out there. So getting into Bitcoin helped me study the universal laws, study Napoleon Hill, the secret teachings of Napoleon Hill, things that I had extra time and energy and self, like searching, soul searching, and all that got me to do that. And then I'm watching billionaires on airplanes talk about how the one regret they had is if they just wish they had more time with their family, right? All the money in the world isn't going to give that back to them, and they would give up all the money in the world to get that time back with their family. So I'm kind of looking at that, and then I'm looking at what legacy I want to leave and my moral obligation to help out with Bitcoin. And I said, you know what, how am I going to manifest the next rest of my life if I'm having my business technically hold me down, even though it's bringing me up? And so it was very difficult to say, okay, no more office, no more paying the DMV. I'm going to go off and just be full on Bitcoin, use that investment and my earnings and other things that I have, my other cryptos, which I don't want to talk about those, but things that can just help me be self sovereign and not go back. Now I can always go back to selling cars, open my business. My best friend still has his auto broker business. So if I can still sell cars and use his broker business, right? So I can still technically, if families and friends need a car, I can still kind of help. But having those expenses, those liabilities, even when I want to spend time with my family, I still had them. I'm like, nope, I want to just be full on family, Bitcoin, health, and do what's important, because if Bitcoin doesn't do what I think it's going to do or know what it's going to do, I can always go back and sell cars.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, kind of makes me think. Do you think Bitcoin is now, it's easier for people to make that decision because Bitcoin is safer now.
mhm.
Bitcoin has proven itself. It's 17 years old. It's not, this infant anymore. It's 1.9 trillion dollar. It's a 1.9 trillion dollar asset, and so. I mean, doing something like that, like even if you had 10,000 Bitcoin and it went from 200 to 1,000 and you're like made a shit ton of money and then it went to 20 grand and still, but to like hang on for that long and then to keep going through that ride, it's like now it's like a safer play, even though I think you and I both agree it's going even higher to the million, to the 10 million and things like that. So do you
Yeah.
think that helps at all now that it's more solidified?
No, because people don't want to spend in their mind 95 whatever thousand bucks it is to buy Bitcoin right now, 96, 96. They don't want to spend that. And then in their mind, they don't want to buy point 0.1 Bitcoin or $100 in Bitcoin. They don't understand that. They think I want a whole Bitcoin or I want 10 of them, and they're so expensive. It doesn't make sense. What if it goes to 150, 200K? It's not a big deal. It's more of a risk. They don't understand that it's going up forever, that this is the new base layer of reality, right? That women lie, men lie, but numbers don't lie. And this is the best number system we have to bring humanity out of, I wouldn't say the dark ages, but out of that fiat central banking age, right? Because they say, Jesus hated the bankers and the government and loved the normal common people, right? There was a girl that just, went on social media that was calling churches saying, hey, I need baby formula. And, 17, $20 thing of baby formula, calling, and she called like 10 churches, and maybe one or two gave her the baby formula. Then she went and reached out to like people that are in the ghettos, like drug dealers or somebody that just is hanging out that looks like a criminal, and asked them. And she asked only seven of those, 7 out of 7 gave her a $20 bill to go buy the baby formula. So we get our minds and our everything mixed up on this fiat social structure, right? And we get detached from our neighbors, universal law, and things that, can really help you. Like for me, I'm self-medicated, self-diagnosed. I go to my, grow my own medicine. I can go to the ocean and I can get my own fish. I can do it, grow my own food, veggies, pretty much everything, right? And that tastes better and is a lot better for me than going to the doctor for medicine or for my ailments or anything like that, right? And for going for the store to buy food, you go to the store and buy fish, it smells like fish. When I shoot a fish and I fillet it and I'm about to eat, it doesn't even smell like fish. It's like shimmering of just like the oils, and it looks beautiful. It smells good, tastes good. So ever since I started spearfishing, I'm like, I'm never going to buy store fish again. Even if I go to a restaurant, just won't even touch it, right? And so once you kind of go back to Mother Nature, back to base layer reality like Bitcoin, and you're like, wow, they're not just can't make more than 21 million. And then people don't realize that very soon, the next couple of years, 98% of all the Bitcoins are going to be in people's hands, like Michael Saylor, you and me, and other people, right? And we're not going to be giving up our Bitcoin easily. Yeah, right. I mean, lifestyle chips here and there, but we're not, oh, let's sell the Bitcoin because it's going back down. And so what are people going to do when all of a sudden it jumps up to $10 million, right? It's going to leave a lot of the gap between the wealthy and the unwealthy could get even bigger, right? And that's why for people like you and Stacy and Dr. Satoshi, Khalif on the Real Hard Money podcast, you guys are doing um, like just God's work, in my opinion. That's why I support you guys so much on X, right? I'm always trying to comment, like, and share, tell people to subscribe, especially when I'm on, the podcast, is because I feel like you guys are just literally doing God's work, right? Or infinite intelligence work to bring us all up collectively. Because when the ball drops and everything gets crazy, right? Like when we Noah's building the ark, but when that starts raining, how hard is it to build the ark in the rain when it's pouring, right? So when everybody's being a frenzy to get Bitcoin, how hard is it to get Bitcoin, one, and two, at a price you can afford? And then, it's now is the time when there's blood in the streets, when it's way oversold in our hearts, right? That's when people should be buying it, and that's when we should be doing podcasts and talking about it, because then when it is a million and 10 million, we can look back and say, look what we were doing. That is why we deserve the fruits of our labor, because we are doing something that is in the benefit of us, you, society in a whole, right? And so I think that it's just a win-win for everybody. When you go in the fiat direction, it's a win for the people that print the fiat. That's it. There's nobody
Yeah.
else.
And I think it's really important what you said there is like the fiat mindset, because people always look at Bitcoin and yes, it's a big number, $97,000 or whatever it is today. And then they're like, "Oh, but if it goes to 200,000, I only double my money." And it's like that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is when it goes to 200,000, you're not going to be able to buy as much Bitcoin as you can right now. Like
Hmm.
right now, you want to get as much Bitcoin as possible because it's going to only get more and more difficult to buy that Bitcoin. And then, like you said, you don't want to be building Noah's Ark in the rain. Well, it's like it's kind of starting to drizzle, my man. Like
Hmm.
I know we live in the United States and we're very, very privileged, and we don't see stuff like that coming. But as soon as you
But
go
it's
out of the
raining in
United,
Argentina, right?
yeah,
Because
exactly.
so I'll try to get Bitcoin in Argentina. I heard the price went up ridiculous over there with
Well,
regards
what,
to
what
their
was it?
Argentinian,
Iran.
whatever it is. What?
What was it like yesterday or 2 days ago? Iran, the Iranian whatever dollar, basically went to zero,
Yeah. So
and
imagine what
this
Bitcoin
just
did to
happened.
that. It went up 99%.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
so you want to get into Bitcoin before that happens to your currency, because it happens to every fiat currency. And
Yeah.
the United States is no different. We might be the last currency because we're like
Yeah.
pretty blessed, and because of, the situations that happened before we were all born and coming up to today's money. But the writing's on the wall, it's starting to sprinkle. You need to start building your ship now,
Yeah.
because when the flood comes, you're not going to have time to build, and the
Hmm.
price is going to be 10x what it is now,
Yeah.
and you're not going to be able to save that.
I totally agree. And when I say Bitcoin's disguised as an investment, right? Imagine getting into Bitcoin 13 years ago and going through all these ups and downs and crazy stuff. You do a lot of soul searching, right? A lot of connecting to infinite intelligence and asking if you're doing the right thing, right? And I didn't get I got the clearest answer ever every time I would sit there and try to like think and meditate about it. It was like, you don't have enough Bitcoin, right? Um, you need to tell more people about it, but you also, need to be careful too, and you just need to realize that you're blessed, right? And so when you start to feel a little, like not euphoric, I just sit there and think about Bitcoin, think about how blessed I am, and think about there's 8 billion people and what I have. And I'm just like, holy cow, right? And I don't have a ton of Bitcoin. Don't get me wrong. I have enough to
I have
retire
none.
myself and my family. And in fact, if anyone asks me, I have zero Bitcoin. I lost it all scuba diving. I've actually made a funny video to promote Bitcoin back in 2018. If you go on YouTube and you type in "scuba diver finds Bitcoin," I went scuba diving, spearfishing with one of my good friends, and I brought, a fake gold Bitcoin, and I put it out there in the sand. And then as we're, the end of the dive, I'm like, "What's this?" And find the Bitcoin, and we're underwater with the camera looking at it. Then I get back to shore. I'm like, "Dude, I found a big, oh, it's a Bitcoin, blah blah blah." It's a funny way to tell people like, oh, look, you could just find these things in the ocean. And then, the comments are like, especially back then, you can't just find those in the ocean, and it was a funny little thing. But yeah, I mean, it's been, a part of me that serious even since 2018, easily,
That's hilarious. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, man, to make those kind of videos today, you just get thrown to the fire. You'd be idiot, but no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But we were kind of mentioning, you know, uh a little bit of like, Venezuela and El Salvador a little bit and how they've kind of broken free
Right.
from the US dollar. I mean, they're basically on their own. And then what do you think about do you think the US is going to kind of follow suit and like with an SBR stuff like that? Do you think that's actually still going to happen?
Well, I voted for it to happen. I'm trying to do what I can to get it to happen. I'm, talking to my mayor in my city. I was going to actually run for mayor of Santa Cruz, but you have to live in the city, and I live right outside in an
Oh,
unincorporated area. And so I'm like, I guess scratch that off. And but I don't know, I think that we need Bitcoin as the US. Bitcoin doesn't need us, right? And I like what El Salvador did. I've been watching them ever since they started, and that's what we should be doing. Like if I was a political figure, I would say, okay, we are going to make Bitcoin legal standard, no taxes on it. We're going to mine the crap out of it, and then instead of arresting people that don't have the right documentation, I would say, oh, you want to be a citizen? One Bitcoin to become a US citizen. To every 10 people, that's one Bitcoin for the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And imagine how many people, even if they don't have the 95, 10 grand now, they can make payments on it, right? Do you know that if let's say someone that's not a US citizen wants to become a US citizen, it costs 1 or 2 thousand bucks to become a citizen, but it costs 13,000 in lawyer fees. So it costs them 15 grand to become a US citizen already, but 13 of that grand goes to lawyers, right? So why wouldn't the America get it and say, look, get in now before Bitcoin's a million, because it only costs you less than 10 grand to get a US citizenship. And then we can take that money and put it in the strategic Bitcoin reserve for everybody else. There's so many things that we could do, like El Salvador, arresting the criminals and the bad people instead of people that are hardworking family people, part of society, just because they don't have the right documentation, but they can't get the right documentation because they're already here. Right. And so, but they're here because they're good people trying to do good. When they're bad people, nobody has anything to say if they're saving victims and going after someone that's victimizing a bad person or a criminal. No one's going to be like, oh, please, ICE or this or that. Don't do that. But when they're going after kids and families, you're like, wait a minute, that's my neighbor. Yeah, I don't care what type of paperwork you think makes sense. That paperwork's invalid when it comes to universal law, right? So then people get wrapped up on this common law, skipping universal law. And so I think when you get into Bitcoin and it helps you be self-sovereign, and you can look at everything from these other sandbox where you're not in the sandbox with the big bully, where the bully can't get you because right, and you're self-sovereign, then you can kind of look at it like, well, let me get more people into my sandbox because these people are going to be protected, right? Even if it's a country, if they get into this sandbox like El Salvador, they're going to be protected, right? And so it's just, being a human to another human, being part of that humankind to say, look, let's, come together, this group, and, and include Mother Nature because that's where we live, and we include this better money, and let's put it together, and then fixes all 99% of all the problems I see out there is because they're disconnected from Mother Nature, universal law, and they're stuck in the fiat system. As soon as you start going to the ocean for your food or growing your food, as soon as you start worrying about yourself, your health, and your mental health, right? and stop blaming, oh, the reason I'm feeling bad is because of the media or the government or because of these group of people, right? And you start taking self accountability, you can look at this whole thing, but wow, this is a big game. It's all rigged, right? It's like a game of Monopoly, and the bankers are laughing, and we're trying to go around just to try to not to get into jail, right? And once you realize, well, let's just not play this game and play this other game where it's fair, and I'm a banker, you're a banker, we're all bankers, that game is a better game because I'm not stressed out playing the game. I have a better chance of winning in the game. And, it's not corrupted. And as soon as you're a banker in a game and you have your friends, are you going to play fair with the other people? No, you're going to buy the property, do everything, and hope, and if you get in jail, you just buy yourself right out of jail, right? And so I
Well,
think that, once they start to understand that, that's why you realize Bitcoin is so important.
yeah, well, I think it's really important that people like you know, talk to mayors or city council and your local government because I want
Yeah.
the United States to be a place where Bitcoin is, welcomed. It's not, fearful. I want people to come here being like, I can mine Bitcoin, I can have Bitcoin here. It's not
Mhm.
taxed. I can live free. I can be sovereign. Like separate the money and state because we all know that the money in your bank account isn't yours anyway.
Yeah.
So why would you even hang on to that? So like hold
Mhm.
on to your Bitcoin. But did you see that thing that Gavin Newsom put out? I it was like 3 days ago. It might have been old, so I'm sorry if this is outdated. But someone posted something that was like Gavin Newsom said he's putting forward a bill where if your Bitcoin or
Mhm.
crypto isn't moved or touched in 3 years that they can confiscate it and I'm like.
Yeah, yeah, and so I looked into that a little bit. It's basically like if you are, on Coinbase and you die and nobody can access you, they're trying to get a hold of you for 3 years, and there's no account activity at all, and maybe you're basically dead, then that's the way they can take your crypto. Right. And so it's not a way where, oh, I didn't trade it in 3 years, they're going to take it. It's more of, oh, you passed away. Now the state wants your Bitcoin.
Okay, because I know the United States has stolen a lot of Bitcoin or confiscated, you could say, a lot of Bitcoin.
Right.
And I don't want the United States to be a place where it's like if you misbehave, they're gonna come after you for your Bitcoin. Because even if you do self-custody it, as we saw up in Canada, they came after people with, guns.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately for Canada, they can't have guns. And so, I'll die on this hill because it's my Bitcoin. So if you come at me with guns, I've got guns.
Hmm.
But at least in the United States, I don't want it to be a place where I have to worry about that. And so
Yeah.
that is kind of a fear of mine. So I think it's great that you're talking to mayors and things like that.
Yeah, well, and I've had a lot of the same fear you've had too in the past, and even to this day. But what I like to remember is that darkness, aka fiat, right? You bring a candle into a dark room, one candle, you, me, Stacy, somebody that's just preaching Bitcoin, right? It lights up the whole room. Darkness hides. And so we just start lighting other people's candles, right? And darkness flees and hides, right? And so Bitcoin in that standard is going to win a lot easier than people think because the game theory, the mindset, how it takes your consciousness and raises it. When people get into it and put in the 100 hours or whatever it is to understand Bitcoin, it gives people hope, right? And that hope is that little spark, and that just keeps going and going and going, right? Like how Max Keiser sparked my candle. Probably 20, 30, 40 people have probably bought Bitcoin that I've known because of me and my you know, neck of the woods from family to friends, right? And and all I can think of is that water flows least resistance, right? Bitcoin's least resistance. When you go to the banks, you can't get your money out on weekends or at nights. You can't transfer a lot of money on certain times, especially cash. You can't even get a certain amount out. You can't transfer your money to other countries easily. But in Bitcoin, it gets rid of all those barriers. Oh, in 2018, and you said what was giving me like this, getting me so confident in Bitcoin, I go to the bank and I'm in my car business, right? So I sometimes go in, I need 8, 10 grand like that to go buy a car, a customer's trade in, right? And then so I can go sell that. And so I go to the bank sometimes and right before I go to a dealership to go buy their trade in, and I'll be like, I need 8 grand. After I waited in line for half an hour. Oh, sorry, sir. We only have 3 grand. Then I argue a little bit. Okay, 5 grand. And then I have to go to another bank to get the other three. So then I thought about it. It's like I could have just transferred them Bitcoin in 2 seconds. I didn't have to go to two different banks, wait in line, do all this. But the customers, they don't know Bitcoin. They don't know, what's going on. And so it just made me realize what society, when more people start to realize this, there's no going back. My kids aren't going to be excited to get a bank account when they can have Bitcoin at 3 or 4 years old and their own little thing and understand and things like that. I mean, by the time my son is 16, 17, 18, he's not going to care. He's not going to need it because you can have crypto.com with the Visa cards. You can have all these types SoFi, which you can, kind of use as a bank. The banks are dying. They're big. I go into the bank, there's like two people in the bank, five people working now. And a lot of times I go to the bank, they're closed, right?
Yeah.
During COVID, I went to the banks all the time, closed, closed, COVID, closed. And I have Bank of America, right? Not some little one. I go to Bank of America and it's closed. I was getting so frustrated. I'm like, another reason why I was telling everybody about Bitcoin. I was like, well, my Bitcoin's here. It's 24/7, and I can't even go to the bank, right? On a normal Monday at 12 o'clock because they're scared of another could be man-made virus to promote fear, to bring us down. Yeah, who knows? And the other thing is it's all about money too, right? Everything leads back to money. So they say the root of all evil is what? Money. And so if you change that money, then it should change everything else. Because I've not met one Bitcoiner that one I don't like, and two, doesn't have the right morals, right? The right personality. They believe in self-sovereign. They think outside the box. They have all the things that before I even got into Bitcoin, I embodied. I just didn't know it because I didn't know it was really possible to thrive in that embodiment of trying to be self-sovereign and look at it. And Bitcoin helps you do that because it's the way out of the matrix, right? It's like the tickets to escape the matrix are priced in Bitcoin. Right. And so when you tell people that 95,000 seems pretty good, even 1 million seems pretty good because you're getting out of the matrix, right? The limitations they put in banking, right? Of having your credit score, your age limits, your boundaries, your geographical limitations, everything's gone. So then it brings people back to universal law, Mother Nature, baseline reality, and realizing that if you're not healthy in your mind and your body, nothing else even matters. So you got a lot of these unhealthy people in America, fat, out of shape, or even mentally not there because they are looking at the media. The media is giving them fear. They're looking at their bank account, which is worth less and less every year. They're looking at their health, and their doctors are saying, you need this because of this. And so you're getting hit in every direction. And then the worst part is, I don't know how people do it without Bitcoin to have kids, right? Because I got two kids and I'm retired and I still look at it like, holy cow, it's a lot of work, right? And so it makes me realize how the heck is America supposed to thrive and be a good family unit when both parents have to work all the time and they're part of that human race racing to try to get ahead when they're not trying to be kind to their family, right? Because I wouldn't be as kind to my kids hanging out with them and being so loving and patient if I came back from working all day. You know what I mean? Like, give me a beer, let me go watch football. I don't want to hear nothing. I got, but now since I don't watch any sports or anything like that. The only sports I watch is the price of Bitcoin and the battles of countries and states and presidents and all that stuff. So,
But
but
I
yeah,
think I love it because Bitcoin is like it's kind of the world's first peaceful protest that's truly peaceful.
yeah.
It's finally something where it's like you can opt out and you don't have to have any confrontation. You don't have
Mhm.
to argue with anyone. You don't have to go talk to someone. You don't have to write a letter. You don't have to, hold a sign. I mean, it's the one protest where you're like, I can actually vote with my money because people say vote with your money, and it's like, okay, I can vote with my money and not buy from Target or not buy from Amazon or
Mhm.
Walmart or not buy this product. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's only like what, like 10 companies that kind of own everything, like that own all those companies. So it all
Yeah.
like filters back to them anyway. So it's
Well,
like,
in
well,
the
you can't
stocks too.
really,
Yeah, and
huh?
think about it, the stock market, right? Because a lot of my friends, I tell them Bitcoin, Bitcoin, they're like, well, the stock market does pretty good too, right? And I'm thinking, yes, but the stock market is fueling the fiat monster, right? You're fueling destruction of Mother Nature. It's separating Mother Nature and reality when you invest in anything other than gold or Bitcoin or, things that matter like energy and resources. Because think about this. Let's say we were on an island and we couldn't leave the island, but we all had $10 billion, but no resources. We're all dead. It means nothing. But if we have water, food, we have, community, we have things like that, that is the real wealth. But when you're in the fiat mindset, you're like, what? I don't need water and food and to grow my own food. I don't need to run these 2 miles to get in shape. The easiest thing people can do is fast, like 1 or 2 days a week, right? If you
Yeah.
fast, you're saving money on a food. You're not supporting these big companies, and you're actually clearing out and helping your system. But the fiat mind is, I'm gonna starve. If I don't eat, oh my gosh, right? I'm gonna be grumpy. I'm gonna be this. My tummy might hurt. Blah blah blah. Well, I've not eaten for 3 days, and it's easy, right? It's just as easy the first day as it is the third day. It's all in your mind. When you get hungry, if you drink water, you're fine. But nobody understands that. They go, I gotta go to McDonald's, right? I gotta go get something fast and cheap and easy because they're in that fiat mindset, that human race. Gotta race to get home. I'll swing by McDonald's, right? And that's why when I say Bitcoin's a rabbit hole, it really opens you up to everything, right? Like, like, holy cow, my family is more important than this printed money that's worthless. Oh crap, maybe I should learn how to go catch my own food for free, right? I have fun with my friends and I'll go shoot like two big halibut and some lingcod. I come back and I have like $300-400 worth of gourmet fresh halibut and lingcod, right? And you go to Costco, you look up what a pound of halibut is, Pacific halibut, it's like $20, probably more for a pound. And I'm shooting 30-pound fish, 20-pound fish, having a blast, right? And yes, it's in great white territory. And yes, it's crazy because you're scuba diving and doing it, but you're absorbing all the negative ions from the ocean. So when I get done spearfishing, you feel euphoric, right? You feel like a whole different person because you get rid of all the positive ions you get from like the microwave and all these other things, right? You think negative's negative, but actually negative ions are good for you. So when you go in the ocean, it cleanses your all. Remember how I said the inner core of Earth, the magnetism cleanses everything. You feel so euphoric and different and amazing, right? And then you get to eat this fish, and then you're saving hundreds of dollars on it, right? And then you have extra fish you can then give to your neighbors, or my neighbor has a great lemon tree, has a bunch of lemons. I'm like, here's some fish. Like, oh, here's some lemons. All of a sudden, you're just saving money. You're eating healthier, but you're doing it all just outside of the system. Right. Because there's no system saying, oh, let's teach you how to do this and this and this. And it's no, 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 don't go into that great white territory and try to risk your life for this fish. Go to the store and buy a fish that was caught in China or somewhere far away, flown all the way here, and it's been dead for a week or two, and you're going to eat this cheap fish, or a fish that's been in a farm that's eating its own poop that has a lot of like, stuff wrong with it. And you're eating that, but it's quicker, it's easier, it's gourmet. You're spending your money, your energy, all this. And, there's a lot of different ways to do things, just like there's a different way to store your energy. Instead of in the old matrix, stocks, banks, cash in your whatever, you can do it in Bitcoin, which is a secure network, a global network that is not going to be made more of. Because even gold, I went to Colorado. You said you lived in Colorado, right? I went to
Yeah,
Colorado
but
and
I
went
grew
out
up in college.
into the mountains out there. And I went into a gold mine. I went into like an abandoned gold mine where they had basically like you pay to go in and they explore and they give you like all the history of it. So I was like, I'll go in and do it. So we go way deep into this mountain. And the guide's like, you see this vein going through, and you see sparkles of gold going through, right? This vein, it's like a vein of gold, right? And she's like, there's, a lot of gold in here, but it's too risky for them to get it out. and there's so much gold in these mountains. There's 20,000 abandoned mines with gold and gold and gold and gold and gold, gold. And I'm thinking, if gold goes to, $10, $20,000 an ounce, they're going to send robots. They're going to send people back and just get more of this gold, right? So I'm thinking like, but you can't do that with Bitcoin. So, just, living your life, but when you know Bitcoin, your life validates Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin doesn't pop up and say, I'm code, let me validate. No, you understand it and then you live your life. You go to banks, you wait in lines, you try to send 10 grand to your friend or family. You remember real quick like that. You're a friend, somewhere out of the States, and you start looking at everything and you're like, wait a minute, there's people getting paid in fiat to do unmoral things to other Americans. Why are they doing it? They're trapped in the fiat mindset. So just lighting these candles and getting people to realize, and the thing is, when you get into Bitcoin, it's not going to change you tomorrow, the next day, the next year. It's when you get into Bitcoin, this investment to get you more wealth, you go down the rabbit hole and you just start learning. You start watching your videos, people, like myself, and get an idea of like, wow, I like it the way he's thinking. I like his energy, his magnetism, right? That's a lot better than over here, getting my money taken out of my check, working, doing this, having to go buy store-bought food, things like that. And so being able to teach people to spearfish, teach people about Bitcoin, watching people on X like, oh, you got to do push-ups, you got to be self-sovereign, proof of work, getting me to be even more active and more push-ups and more, pushing me. Because when I watch people on the Bitcoin army in that community, it gets me to want to do more, right? Watching Stacy and then, having her reach out and say, oh, it would be cool to maybe get you on the show. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let me do that. Let's see where it goes. And then now I'm on, a lot of more people's podcasts. You're like the fifth person I've been on their podcast. And so it's not something thought a year ago I'd be doing, but about a year ago when I retired, this is what I envisioned I would probably be doing. And, I didn't envision a year later I would be, a little bit less wealth wise, because I could have sworn a year Bitcoin would be a lot higher. So, but it doesn't like concern me at all. It makes me even more confident in Bitcoin because a couple months ago, everybody, all the YouTubers, everybody was saying it's going to 150 by the end of 2025. Everybody
Yeah.
was saying that. And a little bird in my head was like, tweet, tweet, tweet. Every time that happens, Bitcoin does the opposite. It's max pain before max gain, right? So I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, it's probably going to do that. Most likely it should. Math says it's going to do that. But all those people that are doing leverage and all these other little things, there's a way a lot of people can make a lot of money by making it go the other direction. And so that's what I see. I don't see it just going down and, oh, this is a bear market. I see that it's doing the exact thing, the opposite thing of what people think short term. And then it's going to do the opposite. It's going to go parabolic short term because people aren't going to think that. If I told you Bitcoin's going to go to 500,000 or 1 million in a year or two, or 3 or 4, you'd probably be like, yeah, maybe 5 or 6, but yeah, I know it's going there, right? I'm just saying, a normal person. And but that's why I think it could do max pain the opposite direction, right? Because in just a couple years, 98% of all Bitcoins will be mined, right? And it's going to be very hard, especially when it goes from 450 Bitcoin down to, half that every day being mined. The supply is going to be almost non-existent. And that's why I think just basic math, we're forgetting it should do, because Bitcoin dropped like 20, 30K in like almost one day. And so I told my buddy who got into Bitcoin about a year ago, he's like, hey, well, what's going on? Should I be worried? And I'm like, no, don't be worried. But if it can go down 20, 30K in a day, imagine when it goes up. It's going to be able to go up 30K a day, right? And so imagine when it does that and the euphoria is back. It's going to skyrocket, in my opinion, pretty darn high pretty quick. Because if it can do what it's doing now in that short amount of time and create that max pain, the next is max gain. And I'm pretty sure all us Bitcoiners are going to be pretty happy very shortly when that happens, because it's going to leave a lot of people in the dust, right? And then now people are going to have to readjust their whole thinking of Do I buy now that it's $1 million? Well, of course it's going to 10 million, but then you're going to have that same thing where people are at now. It's at almost 100,000. I'll wait till it goes back to 20K. And that's why I think the people that are smart enough to understand Bitcoin are the ones that are going to reap the benefits, the rewards of Bitcoin, like me, like you, when it went up and then went back down. And we already studied it enough to know, oh, here's our opportunity. Let's double down, right? Because if I didn't double down, I just bought when it was kind of at the higher end, I would never have the Bitcoin I had now. I would have less and I would still be probably working to acquire more.
Well, yeah, I mean, the short-term prices, that's just fiat games. That's the leverage getting washed out and whatever. People using that. So don't pay attention to the short-term
Yeah.
game, like you were saying. But then, I mean, you mentioned a couple really cool things in there. First of all, like the fasting thing. I'm definitely doing a fast this year. I've never done one, so I'm gonna do a 3-day fast with my wife,
Yeah.
just to kind of cleanse out the body. And I think that's gonna
Well,
be
you can drink water, you can
yeah,
drink coffee, you can drink bone broth, right? And so,
yeah.
and bone broth is huge. Like a lot, I've never even heard of bone broth. And then like a couple of years ago, I had a little autoimmune health scare, and I'm pretty healthy. I don't eat fast food or anything. And I was like, what the heck is this? Right. And so I had to pay some of my Bitcoin for lifestyle chips to figure out what was going on, to realize that you got to eat. You can't just be a vegan, or you can't just do this and that. You got to eat healthy fats. Right. And, and bone broth is one of the, healthiest things for you. And I didn't even know about it. And so when you do your fast, you can have bone broth and coffee and water, and it's still, you're absorbing those nutrients, but it's not hurting your gut. It's letting your gut heal, your gut lining. And I
Yeah.
didn't know that your gut lining is so thin that if you don't give yourself time to let it heal, you eat bad stuff or you try to do a cleanse, right? I took some things for a cleanse and it leaked through my gut, leaky gut. I thought I'm healthy. I'm not fat. I'm in shape. And so I realized that fasting will help you repair your gut. Bone
Yeah, I
broth,
mean, my wife
things
my
like
wife
that.
drinks, my wife drinks bone broth all the time. It's just one of the things that she's added to her diet, and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds phenomenal." But then another thing you mentioned is the amount of time, and I think the patience you kind of grow. Because, people come home and they're so irritated and they don't wanna spend time with their kids, and then once you've, kind of developed that low time preference with Bitcoin and you
Hmm.
realize, you appreciate time more, and
Yeah.
so instead of coming home and being irritated with your kids, you're like excited. And then, because you realize that there's only so much time with your kids. And I think that was
Hmm.
really cool that you touched on that too. But then yeah, back to the price and everything and investing into Bitcoin right now. What are now that you're retired and you got the two kids, what are you looking forward to in 2026? You got anything planned? Any cool projects or just hanging out? What's your goal?
Expanding my health, wealth, and your consciousness, being present for your family, I was trying to think like, what else can I do or this and that. And, after the whole year of being retired, I thought, what better way to just use that retirement to talk about Bitcoin? Because then that was one of the reasons why I wanted to retire, to say, look, Bitcoin retired me at 40, right? It wasn't anything else. It was pretty much Bitcoin and understanding it. And so that's why I praised Max Keiser so much. And I'm a car salesman, right? I can sell a car. I can fulfill people's needs better than anybody else for a commission. Bitcoin, I mean, it sells itself. So for me, a car salesman, to get out there and convince people, hey, look, you're barely hanging above water in this fiat system, and over here the river's pushing you in the direction you want to go. Come on. So I think, Bitcoin gets someone like me and says, we can use you and your talents of talking and selling and communicating and bring it over to this side. And so I think Bitcoin, like with Stacy, she cuts hair. She's a communicator and talks to people as well. It's basically like your own business, right? And when you have your own business, the only way you're going to be successful is if you have harmonious exchange of values with other people. Right? That's how I was successful in my business. If I screwed anybody over or lied or did anything unmoral, unethical, I'd get a bad review, right? I wouldn't get their word of mouth and repeat business. So I think Bitcoin is that. It's doing what it's meant to do in game theory, and it's grabbing people like me and other people. It's coming for politicians, it's coming for presidents like El Salvador. And once it gets you, if you have a good moral compass and you just don't want to be evil, it helps you steer that moral compass a lot better to where it needs to be. Because even if you want to be super moral, but you're stuck in the fiat mindset, it's hard to be more moral and ethical when you're working harder and harder for something that's worth less and less that's printed. It's just an unmoral, unethical, it's not a civil way to live, right? It's good short term for the governments when they say you can't own gold, you need this fiat system. It sounded good on paper, right? On paper. But when it comes to cutting down trees and getting all this oil and doing this, Nikola Tesla gave us free energy a long time ago. So when you realize it's all about money and corruption and power, and Bitcoin is the silent, lethal injection to that, to give, to kill that dying old system and give, Mother Nature and the earth and everything back to manage Mother Nature's resources in a right way, aka base layer of reality for us humans to get along. Why would we need all this other stuff? Let's focus on, not cutting down trees, helping the ocean, doing all these things that, can let us live and thrive, right? We don't need more chemtrails. We don't need more shots. We don't need more schools. We don't need more jails, right? Because you get more jails, you have to fill the jails, right? You get more ICE people, you got to pay those ICE people in printed money to go do that type stuff, right? And so Bitcoin, when people that are doing unmoral, unethical things, they're going to want to be paid in Bitcoin eventually. We're not going to pay those people and say, yeah, let's go ahead and fund this thing that's unmoral, unethical, and bad to society. We want to fund things that are good. I'm not going to, let's say, in 20 years, Santa Cruz comes to me and says, Jeff, the bank of Bitcoin, we need some Bitcoin, we need this, that, or whatever. We need to pay our police force, let's just say. I'm going to say, great, those police forces aren't going to be pulling people like me over for tinted windows and touching my phone. They're going to pull people over that are drunk, hitting other cars or running over people because you want to save victims, not make victims, right? And so when these corporations and police get in their head, it's money, let's go out and make victims of normal good people to, fuel our corporation. It separates what they're really there for, to help victims and to prevent victims and to do that type stuff, right? Because everybody loves a sheriff or a cop that's like helping somebody, but nobody likes it when they're going in and separating families and doing bad things. So what's the difference, right? The difference is one is supporting the bankers and the governments, when it's not supporting the people. When base layer of reality is Bitcoin, and these police officers, these people of authority, want to try to put down their authority, they have to listen to us, right? Because they're going to want to be paid in Bitcoin. So all these unmoral, unethical, crazy things that are going on that we watch can all be changed and fixed by just going to a different monetary system that's fair. So that's why I like Bitcoin so much. And that's why, it's not just something that, oh, it made me a little bit of money. Let me, talk about it. No, it's something that I'm very passionate about, right? And since it taught me the time value of money and all these other things, I can only look back to who taught me, Max Keiser and Stacy. And that's why I want to go to El Salvador, meet them, shake their hand, tell them what they did. Because when Max Keiser was talking about it, he wasn't talking about it from the fiat mindset. He was talking about it from the Bitcoin, the humankind aspect of it, right? And so he made another humankind person. So I think when the human race starts to go more toward that humankind, everyone's going to be happier, more time with their family, eating healthier mindset and body. Because imagine this, you could have all the money in the world. Does it matter if you have a bad mindset, right? If you're depressed, if you don't have a good mindset, you could have all the money in the world. It doesn't matter. Some of the happiest people in the world don't have a lot of money. They're in these poor countries, but they have their resources, their food, they have a beautiful beach, they have, the jungle, they have whatever, and they're just happy as can be. And then you look at some of the wealthiest people here in the Silicon Valley that I was just selling cars to. They're stressed out, their wife's mad at them, this, that, something's going on because when I'm selling a car to a family member, I know about their job, their credit. I know about their money situation, how much they're making, where they work, right? I know about their family, why they want there's always some life-changing event or something. And so I know I get a good grasp, a snapshot of a family just by helping them sell a car, right? And so every single family, they were either working too much, didn't have time, this, that, didn't understand. And and honestly, a lot of customers I sold cars to, I told them, take the 0%, and go buy some Bitcoin. I told him that because I could. I was the owner of the company. And it was fun because it was true. It was great advice. Not one person probably took it, but I can imagine 5 years later, they go, "Oh my gosh, that broker I bought my car from told me I should have just wrote a check for 30 grand. I should have went with the 0%, bought Bitcoin. And now Bitcoin's 95K. And back then it was, 2000 bucks. Wow, I'm going to be buying all my cars from him at least. Right. And so it was just a fun way to look at this. And then every single time I would look at a family and their scenario, I go, wow, if they got into Bitcoin 5, 10 years ago, it'd be a completely different scenario for them too.
And I think
And
this thing's going to happen for the next 5, 10 years. I really do. I think the next 5, 10 years are going to be, maybe not percent wise gain. I don't know. But I'm looking forward to it because I really
yeah,
do think, I think, you know, even if, uh, even if it doesn't hit, like the 1,000% gain or 500, I still believe that, that we're still going up there. But
yeah, yeah. So it's not what we can bring to the fiat table. We're Bitcoiners. We're building our own table, right? And so I think it's just awesome, the community, because I can't build this huge grand table by myself, right? We need to come together like we're doing, like we all have been doing, like countries like El Salvador are doing, and let it play out because water flows least resistance and we're in the right river, going the right direction. So we just need to enjoy life, get our mental attitude on point and all that. Another thing you said, like, what do I see myself doing down the road, right? Have you seen because I know we are friends on X, but we don't like watch every post. Did you see that I about 6 months ago started designing Bitcoin OG shoes? Have you seen that at all?
yeah, I've seen some of your shoes.
Okay, so because I love Bitcoin, right? And I was buying all these Bitcoin shoes. I mean, look, I got my Bitcoin watch on. I do everything. I even bought hundreds of these copper Bitcoin coins, 100% copper, and I've been
Oh,
handing
nice.
them out to people that I like. So if I meet someone on the street and if we have a good conversation, if they're a worker at a place I go to a lot, I'm like, hey, by the way, boom, I'm just spreading. I feel like Satoshi. I'm just like spreading out bitcoins, but of course I'm not going to give the real Bitcoin. So I'm giving another form of monetary of a real investment, right? Because that's technically a different monetary system than fiat. You can use these like gold, like silver, to pay for things if you go to any place that accepts them. Right. So you go to a coin exchange, boom, you can get cash just like that. So it's a fun way. And I bought hundreds of them. So my goal is to give out 100 a year or, at least one every other couple days or something. Right. And so I'm doing that to spread Bitcoin. And then for the Bitcoin shoes, I was like, well, I like, ostrich leather and alligator leather, from Florida, you like that, and suede and cool things. And none of the Bitcoin shoes that I were buying had that quality. So I found a place that I could design my own from Italy, right? And so I got 4 Bitcoin shoes designed so far. And then I got my fifth design just came in the mail yesterday. If you don't mind, can I show it to you? Because I haven't even looked at it myself.
No, yeah, you can grab
And
it.
then, because I know we're running short on time, so I wanted to do this before we go. So look, coming out of the box, this is what you get when you buy these things. All right. Let's see. I'll make it quick. Hopefully they got the order right, right? Because I haven't even seen this. So look,
Yeah.
Bitcoin OG,
Nice.
yours truly, number 5. So if you're a Bitcoiner and you've been into Bitcoin over 5 years, right? I mean, I think these things are pretty cool. Let's see. Look at made in Italy. Let's see what they did here. Ooh, so I tried to make these ones where there's not too much orange on it. But look, see the ostrich?
Yeah,
So they're 100% ostrich on it. So for people that like nice things, you get the ostrich leather, you get the orange on the stitching, you get the Bitcoin OG logo right there. And then I think this has it as well. If you can see in there, you get the Bitcoin little incognito guy underneath in the sole. And it says made in Italy in there. But look,
that's sick,
man.
man.
So that's what I like to do. And eventually, when the Bitcoin price goes higher, I'll start picking, YouTubers that I like and be like, oh, you want to, get a pair? Just, show them for me or, have fun. So I didn't do this to like get rich off of selling shoes. I did it for myself. And so for other Bitcoiners that are like, oh, you know what? This guy got it in 2013. He's passionate about it. He's creating Bitcoin things. I'd like to support that, something with quality, and because everybody needs shoes. And so I was like, I'll do something like that for fun and to see where that goes, because I did graduate at San Jose State with my marketing degree. And so I was like, oh, well, and I love Bitcoin. So it's a fun way to, get people to walk in the right direction when it comes to their mindset in fiat. And I didn't want to just be about Bitcoin because everybody has a Bitcoin logo. I always buy all the stuff, but Bitcoin OG, you got to be in a little bit longer than a couple of years. And so I figured a lot of people that I'm friends with are Bitcoin OGs that I like to associate with. And then they're also good gifts I can give to people, And
That's
so
sick.
that's another side
Aw,
fun thing because when you're a Bitcoiner, you also like to create too, I think,
yeah.
you know?
No, that's so cool. I love that. No, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, thank you.
No, those shoes are dope. I'll have to buy a pair. I don't have any Bitcoin shoes. I I'm still stacking up on merch and stuff. So
Yeah. Well,
that's
I would
awesome.
tell people like if you don't have enough Bitcoin, don't buy these shoes. Like if you're getting into Bitcoin, don't go buy a
Yeah.
200 pair of dollar shoes. Go buy $100 pair of shoes and take that $100 and put it into Bitcoin. And then in 4 or 5 years, you can afford 4 or 5 of my shoes or whatever. But if you've been into
Exactly.
Bitcoin for a while and you're like, you want to represent, you want something a little bit of good quality, handmade in Italy, it makes more sense to get something by a Bitcoiner. And so we'll see. And in this way, I want to get like 9, 10 designs. So not everyone's going to like one of my designs or all of them. So this way they might like one or two, and then they have options to go get them. And so I've been doing that on my spare time. And if you do want a pair, I believe I can get a discount. So I can do something where I can get a discount or vouchers or something, and I can send it to you so you can get like a discount or half off. We'll work out something. I'm sure I can
Yeah,
make
yeah,
that.
we'll talk afterwards, but
Yeah.
no, dude, Jeff, I really do appreciate you, man. We're gonna have to do this again because you're fascinating to talk to. I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you. I very
Uh,
much appreciate it.
yeah,
Well,
bringing
it's
the
funny because, but
Bitcoin
real
energy.
quick, being into Bitcoin so long, and talking to a lot of your friends and family and normal people around your area, they're like, you're a little crazy or you could be a genius. Yeah, we don't know, right? But in the Bitcoin community, it's like, oh, you got in 2013. Oh, you studied for, so you get that appreciation, right? And so I definitely appreciate all you guys because I love watching all your content, seeing you guys online, and then also getting some appreciation back from me makes me feel good too. Cause I'm like, everybody else I talk to, they're like, okay, we understand, but we haven't put 1,000 hours into it or 100 hours into it like you have. So,
Well, it's unfortunate. And then we'll end on this. But yeah, it's really unfortunate because if you say you bought it in 2013 to a normie, all they say is, "Oh, you got lucky."
hmm
That's the response you get. And then when you tell another Bitcoiner, you're like, "I got in 2017." And then I hear someone like, "Oh, from you," you're like, "I got in at 2013." It's like a respect thing.
yeah,
Almost
yeah.
it's like, "Oh, dude, that's so cool," because so many people have heard about Bitcoin back in the day, but then they didn't buy, or they bought a little and then they sold it
And they
once it went up
sold. Yep.
100%, and then so they
hmm
didn't have Bitcoin for 5 years, and then they really got back into it. And so I think it's really cool, to hear stories from people that did buy in 2013, they held strong, they still have their conviction, they still have passion, and they didn't just ghost the world and take all their riches and just peace out.
hmm
And I think that's really cool. And so I respect.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, likewise to you and all the other YouTubers out there, especially the ones in the Bitcoin community, like Stacy, Dr. Satoshi, the Real Hard Money podcast, yours. I want to support you guys as much as possible because you're like the underlayer backbone of the media of what Bitcoin has going on, and you guys are real Bitcoiners doing real stuff. And you're also talking to other real Bitcoiners. A lot of the YouTubers out there, the ones that have been doing it longer, higher up there, it's just them, just their opinion, and sometimes they end up talking about exchanges or other things they like to promote, which is, good if they're making some money and this and that. But for someone like me, you, a lot of the ones that are coming up, it's just the passion. It's just, the realness, the rawness. And so that's what I love and love supporting because, we are all Satoshi, if that makes sense.
Awesome, Jeff. No, I really do appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. We'll do this again in the
Yeah,
future.
yeah,
We'll
you're welcome. It was great talking to you, my friend. And now we got me in California, you in Florida, so we're holding it down across the state. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for listening to this. Please like this video. Please share this video with your
Yeah.
friends. If you like this conversation, definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and tell your friends to subscribe to the channel. And I really do appreciate it. And we will catch you guys next time on the Bitcoin broadcast. I'm your host, Vince. This has been Jeff Long. Follow him on Twitter as well. Is there anywhere else you wanted them to follow you?
I mean, I have my YouTube. I got like almost 500, or no, almost a couple hundred videos on there, but it's all my spearfishing, right? If you want to follow me and you want to look at my Bitcoin and all that type stuff, just follow me on X. It was Jeff Gucci Long, and you'll see me on there. I'm on the Bitcoin army, always chiming in and saying hi and stuff.
Awesome. I'll put your X and stuff down in the description. But Jeff, man, it's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right, Vince, have a good one. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Peace.